Okay, the issue of Title IX, it's something that I'm getting lots of questions from. Joining us now is Monica. Is it Yatuma?
Yatuma,
I got it
yes.
right. Okay. And to let everyone know, you're not driving, right?
I am not driving. No, I have a DD for that.
Okay, that's good. You're not driving. So tell us a little bit about yourself and the group that you belong to.
Yeah, so I am the executive director of our 501c4 of Great Education Initiative. So, Great Education Initiative, there's a 501c3 where we do a lot of work with the public school district, and basically we advocate for parents and their children, and we advocate for safety and privacy of the children and an orthodox education in the public education system. On the 501c4 side, that's me, where I'm the executive director, where we are able to get more political. And so that's where we can try to enact some influence on legislation. That's where we can support certain campaigns and certain candidates. And these are the candidates and the campaigns that align with our conservative values and these values in the public education system, where we want to make sure that parents have full parental autonomy and kids are protected and that they're safe in everything that they're doing, whether it's sports or whether it's in the classroom setting.
Gotcha. I've been getting lots of calls from school board members, parents asking about Title IX. Title IX was passed in 1972 to ensure that male and female students and employees are treated equally and fairly. It was passed by Congress, I believe, but it sounds like there were changes made recently by the Biden administration
Yes, it's actually the
or the department.
Department of Education and their
Yeah,
secretary, Miguel Cardona.
yeah.
They're trying to enact these new Title IX regulations, bypassing congressional support. So they're trying to do it by bypassing Congress,
Yep.
and so they're really exceeding their regulatory authority. So honestly, the way that they're doing is very not just unlawful, but it's very unconstitutional. And if you really think about what they're doing, they're violating the First Amendment and the 14th Amendment, right? So they're violating free speech, they're violating religious freedoms, is essentially what they're doing, or they're at least they're attempting to do.
Yeah, and recently the Supreme Court, I guess they call it the administrative state. The Supreme Court struck down something. The EPA was doing that a lot, making decisions without Congress getting involved. So basically, this is when we talk about all the administrative stuff going on. This is it. So what are the changes that everyone's so concerned about with this, with what's going on? What are you hearing from people on the ground, and what are you hearing about?
So here's what they're trying to do on a federal level. They're trying to amend Title IX and change the regulations. Basically, they're trying to change the definition of the word sex to add in gender identity. So if they are successful in doing that, what that would mean is that boys will be able to partake in girls' sports, and boys, if they identify as a female, will be able to, be in girls' private spaces. That includes locker rooms, that includes bathrooms. That's what they're trying to do. Michigan is a little bit unique because in 2023, the Democrats amended Michigan's Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act. So it's kind of a twofold here. You have federal law, you have Title IX, and then you have state law, you have Michigan's Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act, where essentially last year they did the same thing. They tried to change the definition of the word sex to include gender identity and sexual orientation. And so while it violates the Constitution, again, First Amendment, 14th Amendment, it's really never been challenged until now, where we are bringing forth this federal lawsuit against Title IX.
So what is the lawsuit? I know there's been lawsuits in other parts of the country, I believe, and injunctions in
Yes,
other
there
parts.
has been. Kansas, Arkansas, Tennessee, multiple groups, and all have successfully been granted their injunctions. So that's huge. That tells us that the judges are saying, hey, we agree with you. This makes no sense. This is a complete violation of, not just one constitutional amendment, but two different constitutional amendments. We're going to grant you your injunction. And so essentially we're seeking the same thing here in Michigan.
So what would that do? Put everything on hold, or in hope maybe the Supreme Court would look at it?
Yes. If we are successful in receiving this injunction, it says that these public school districts can't enact the new Title IX federal regulations. And if they try to say, oh, we're following Michigan's Elliott Civil Rights Act, they can't enact that either because federal law will always trump state law.
and it's crazy because I have super or school board members in districts so confused. They
I
seem like
know.
they're scared to make a decision because they feel as if they're going to be sued from that side or that side. It seems like a big mess.
It's a huge mess. And here's what I'll say to you. They're all afraid of losing their federal funding because Title IX is tied to federal funding. Nobody has lost their federal funding. And I can tell you that if there is some unique and very rare instance where the government says, oh, we're pulling your federal funding, well, guess what? You can challenge that because they're not standing on any kind of solid foundation with Title IX. Again, like I said, they're completely bypassing congressional support and they are banking on the fact that people don't realize that that's what they're doing. So we've not had a situation where an actual public school district has lost their federal funding.
Yeah, there was a story I did recently and interviewed a parent in, oh, where was it? Houghton Lake, somewhere in the north. And one district said, oh, we got to vote for it, we got to do it. But maybe Kalkaska said, no, we're going to wait to do it. In the local news interviewed the superintendent or somebody saying, well, that's an issue that hasn't happened with the girls and the boys, but that's really not a way to handle this. I'm assuming that's not to say, oh, it hasn't happened yet. That's not the right way to go about it, I assume.
No, it's not. And here's what I can tell you for the superintendents that are on the fence. We have multiple school districts in Michigan that are saying, you know what? We're going to wait. This is a complete mess. It's completely chaotic. We're just going to wait. We're not going to issue any guidance. We're not going to change anything. We're just going to keep things as is, just to wait and see what happens. And honestly, I think that's the safe bet. I think that's what all the school districts should be doing.
Yeah, and so initially, 1972, it was Congress that did this. It was to treat sexes equally and fairly. But I've heard several people argue that with these changes, it's actually not treating people fairly, especially girls. I've been hearing a lot of girls and parents have been saying they feel as if they're not on an equal setting.
Well, they're not. I mean, let's just use me as an example, right? I have 2 young daughters. We play club sports and we pay a lot of money. We put in a lot of time. We spend a lot of money on training. So why is it fair for a biological male to come in and say, well, I feel like I'm a female and I think I should be able to partake in girls' sports? Naturally, they have higher bone density. They have more muscle mass. They have a bigger arm wingspan. I mean, it's just not fair. Let's just use the college volleyball player. She got spiked in the face by a biological male that said, hey, I feel like I'm a female. I'm going to play on this girls' team. She got spiked in the face. Yep. She's had neurological problems ever since. Her life has not been the same. So is that fair to our daughters who are playing sports?
So correct me if I need to explain it to people because a lot of parents don't understand. So this scenario may not have come up in Michigan yet, but if this is allowed to stay into place, there could be a student that could do this and challenge this. I mean, if it's the law, if it exists, if there weren't any groups like yours challenging this, there would be nothing to stop what you're saying to happen, right?
No, honestly, there's nothing. And that's what it comes down to. So in the Biden-Harris administration, or whether it's the Michigan Department of Education or just the federal Department of Education, that's really what it comes down to is they're going to try to push whatever they can. If nobody challenges it, they will get away with it. So that's the whole point is we're challenging it to say, sorry, this is unconstitutional. This is not happening. It's not right.
Yeah. And sometimes people don't understand what administrative state means, but it's basically the EPA, the Department of Education. They're making all these rules and all these decisions. Those people are not people we voted for. We didn't vote for the Department of Education or Miguel Cardona. He's appointed.
That's exactly right. We didn't vote for any of them. And we certainly didn't give him any authority or power over us to try to enact this type of legislation or do this. And that's exactly why they're trying to go around Congress, which is completely exceeding the regulatory authority. This is not okay.
Are they trying to intimidate? It sounds like they are school districts or schools.
Well, they are. They're threatening them and they're saying, hey, if you don't align with this and you don't follow these new regulations, we're pulling your federal funding. So they're making that threat. But what we've seen on our end is they're not actually following through with it. So these superintendents that are saying, oh, I'm scared and I don't want to lose our federal funding. Well, guess what? They're not actually pulling it. There's not a single instance where we've seen them do that.
Wow. What advice would you have? And do you have a website I can put up there?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find us at
Oh, hold on. You broke up.
org. Sign on to be a member. Join the
Hold on,
federal
hold on.
lawsuit.
Hold
Oh,
on.
I apologize.
Nope, that's okay. You broke up for a minute. Let me see if you get in a better area. Okay, let's see now. Oh, we're losing you. Let's see. She's gonna come back in a minute here. We're getting better. We're still connected now. Okay, now I think we're connected. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I apologize. Okay. The website is www.greatei.org. You can sign up. Follow me on social media, Monica Yatuma Official. I'm constantly up time.
Okay, I caught a little. You're still breaking up. You must be in a bad cell area, maybe. I got the website, so I will put the website out there,
Okay.
and I'm going to keep talking. Maybe you'll get in an area with a better cell phone in a second. But everyone can go to the website. You can learn more. I'm going to put the website out there, and we'll see if we can get you back here. But how's the lawsuit? Where do we stand with that? Has it just been filed, or what's the process with that?
Yeah. Okay. So can you hear me now, Dave?
Now you're back. Yeah. Where do we stand with the lawsuit? Is it just beginning?
Wonderful.
Oh, we lost her. We're going to try to see if she comes back here in just a little bit. So we're going to stay live. We're going to keep talking here. So Title IX. Yeah. I want to know what all of you think about this. It was changed by the Biden administration. It was not changed by Congress. And that's something that a lot of people are concerned with, because these changes came from people who did not, we didn't vote for them. So this is something that has a lot of parents, a lot of school districts concerned. Let me know what you're thinking down in the comments. We're going to try to get her back. We lost her cell phone signal, so we're going to stay. I'm going to keep talking for a little while to see if we can get her back. But yeah, it was very difficult. What's going on? So we have you back now. Hello?
I'm back. I'm sorry, Dave. Okay, you asked about the process of the lawsuit. So two things.
Where are we at now?
Yeah. Okay. One, I was saying you can follow me at Monica Yatuma Official. I'm on all social media platforms. I'm constantly updating there. That's one. Two,
Okay.
we filed the lawsuit on Tuesday. So very early stages, very preliminary. Obviously, we don't know anything yet, but we feel very confident about this lawsuit because, like I said earlier, it's been done in Tennessee, Arkansas, Kansas, multiple groups filing the same lawsuit or a very similar one, and all have been granted their injunctions.
What can parents do if they're watching this, even if they're not parents, but people who are concerned? How can they help?
So here's what I'll say. Again, go to the website, www.greatei.org. Sign up, be a member, join the lawsuit. The other thing, too, is just be assertive, be confident in the facts and in the law, and let them know, like, hey, we're not saying don't do anything or do something. Right now, what we do know with what they're trying to enact, it's violating the First Amendment and the 14th Amendment, just go to the superintendent of your school board, go to the school board meetings and say, can you guys just hold on? Let's just hold on and wait and see what happens, because this is extremely chaotic. It's extremely confusing, and it doesn't feel right to try to enact any new policy because everything's so up in the air. So you have to just really be involved and go to your school board meetings and have these conversations.
It sounds like this is why we have the Supreme Court. It sounds like it's a big mess. This is somewhere where it sounds like it's going to end up probably I know it has, but it sounds like the Supreme Court is going to have to make a decision overall for the whole country.
Well, they have to, right? You have an administration that's trying to push this, but they're not doing it using the legal proper channels or our proper judicial system. We have three different branches for a reason. So when you're trying to pass something, and in order to pass it, you have to bypass Congress. That raises red flags immediately. Why do you have to bypass Congress? If you can't get congressional support, then clearly what you're doing is not supported by the Americans and the voters. So why are you trying to push this?
Yeah, last question, and this is why it's so important. Some candidates say, oh, this is not a big issue. It's not something we want to talk about. But candidates, especially president on down, we could have the Supreme Court change. So we need to know where our candidates stand on these issues, because they could be changing these laws or changing Supreme Court justices down the road. That's why these are important. And we need to know where candidates stand on the issues, right?
Yeah, Dave, you're 100% right. And actually, in Michigan, Supreme Court, we have a 4-year term, we have an 8-year term. So 2 seats, and those 2 seats can determine everything, especially with this particular issue that we're talking about right now. So it's very important that people pay attention and they know what's going on and who to support.
I said last thing, but this will be the last thing. A lot of people didn't understand when they voted, a year ago or 2 years ago, the Elliot Larson, they were like, I had no idea that this was part of this or that was part of that. It seemed like it just people now they're knowing what they voted for. So this is why it's so important to just try to do your research or education, because it seems like a lot of people are like, I had no idea I was voting for this.
Yeah, exactly. So when they expanded the Elliot Larson Civil Rights Act, they expanded it to include gender identity and sexual orientation. Now, at the time, Senator Jim Runstead said, hey, we need to include a religious inclusion amendment for these businesses that are owned by people with deeply held religious beliefs, say Catholics, for example, like myself. And the Democrats and Governor Gretchen Whitmer said, nope, sorry, we're not doing this. Completely shut it down. So they didn't take anything into account. And again, it's one of those things that just hasn't been challenged. So if you're not paying attention and if you don't know what you're voting for, this is exactly where we're going to end up, because unfortunately, we've seen from Governor Gretchen Whitmer and now, Vice President Kamala Harris, they've been mocking Catholics and attacking our faith and our morals and our values for quite some time now. And they just don't align with what we believe in.
I got you. So I got your website. I'll put that out there. I really appreciate you taking the time. I'll probably have you back on again, because this is a story that's not going away.
No, it's not. And I appreciate you working with me and having me on, Dave. I really do. Thank you so much.